Recording.
Good morning, everyone. I hope there was no confusion with the time for this session. I think last week I asked Jackie to move it up like an hour. It was scheduled at 10, I think, and I had her move it up to 9 because right afterwards I am doing the food Q&A for week 3 for the reboot, and the last 2 Q&As I've had so many questions that I have gone long, and I needed to get a little bit of extra time in my calendar before my appointments start for the day to make sure that if I need to go long with the reboot Q&A that I have the time. But then I think since we had to change both of the sessions, I think she got them confused. And the sessions were scheduled at the opposite times yesterday. So then I know the time changed, I think, twice in the last week. So I apologize for any of that confusion. I didn't get any questions in advance to answer. So Laura, you are here. If you have questions and you want to ask them, you can come on screen, or you can just put your mic on, or you can type them in the chat if you want to ask anything. I'm letting someone else in, so that is true for her too. Sarah, I was just saying that I didn't get any questions in advance, which is totally fine. But anybody who's here, including you, if you have a question and you want to ask it, you can come on screen or put on your mic and ask, or you can type it into the chat and I will answer your questions, big or small. I am prepping for the reboot Q&A, which will be after this. I think I don't know how many of you guys are doing it, but I think it's been really great. The girls in this session just seem to be a little bit more advanced, which is not like a judgment on girls in other sessions. It's just interesting. Like there are definitely a few that I know have done it before, and there are definitely some that I know are individual coaching clients or in the FFP program as clients, because I recognize their names from, various things, and some of them coach with me. So maybe that's part of the reason why they seem more advanced, because there are more people that are engaged in coaching and like getting access to us and recommendations and support from us. But it's been cool. They've been asking questions that are less sort of like about a single food. What do I do? Or is this allowed in this category? They really seem to have like read the book and used the book as the tool, the resource to go back to. And then they're asking much more complicated questions about how they feel when they reintroduce foods and different things, which is really fun and cool. That's how that's been going. If you guys don't have any questions, I will just, I guess, sit here and prep for the food Q&A. And if any of those questions seem like they're things that would be relevant and good in this forum, I will just talk about them as I prep for them. I don't like go and research answers to these questions most of them I just can answer. But what I do is I have a spreadsheet and I organize them into categories so that I can try to group questions that are basically about the same thing together so that I can answer them together, and also so that hopefully my answers to those questions are like bigger picture and like more helpful to more people. So that's kind of the prep that I'm doing right now, like reading through the question and deciding where it gets organized. Um,
Well, that's neat. Um, I did actually have a quick question. So something that
Absolutely. This is your time.
something that one of the girls had posted, and I didn't see any kind of response for it. And I was like, huh, that's actually a really good question. And I've seen ads for like Primal Queen, different things like that. And
You've seen ads for what?
it's called like Primal Queen, where it's
Primal Queen.
trying to find the ingredients and information on it.
It's like, I think that's a brand, right? Because I've seen some of their
Mhm.
beef superfoods before.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
got like beef liver, beef kidney, um,
Yeah.
all kinds of stuff.
I have seen people taking this before, and I have looked it up and looked at their like ingredients and process and everything, and it seems fine to me. It's third party tested, it's non-GMO, it's screened for heavy metals, screened for bacteria, yeast, and mold. All of that is definitely what we want. I'm just gonna find the ingredients.
That's what I'm trying to find too.
I know I really take issue with websites that make it hard for me to find things. Um, like I do worry that that is a way of hiding something, but it's not that hard to find.
Oh,
If you click on if you go up to like the little menu in the upper left corner and you click on shop beef organs, get 4 free gifts, then if you scroll down, it says here's where the magic happens, and they have their supplement facts panel. In an ideal world, there would just be like a link to the product, and then there would be a link to the supplement facts panel up at the top of the page so that you could get to it right away without scrolling. So their product contains bovine uterus and fallopian tubes, bovine ovary, bovine liver, bovine kidney, bovine heart. So it's all from beef. And this is mostly good for most people, but for some of our clients who have like Hindu um, backgrounds, I wish that somebody would come up with a product that had a different animal as the source for these organs, but they haven't yet.
yeah.
Um,
I've noticed that it's just really difficult to try to get like without doing the collagen, the spoonful of the collagen powder. It's very difficult to try to get all um, the
different types of
yeah,
collagen.
exactly, like the different sort of
Yeah,
I'm trying to remember what's in it. Basically, the organ meat. That's what I was looking for. It's
no,
difficult to
organs.
try to get a lot of the organ meat in.
So in an ideal world, as much as it grosses me out as a picky eater, um, we would all be better off, and uh, the planet would be better off, and it would be more respectful of the animals that give their lives for us to eat if we ate snout to tail and used the entire animal instead of the kind of, 80s concept of like just the boneless, skinless chicken breast, as if the rest of the animal doesn't exist. So it is more difficult to prepare organ meats to cook them in your kitchen, and also we grow up not eating them, and texturally they are pretty different from the meat that we're used to. So I was a Peace Corps volunteer and I lived in West Africa, and I was attached to a family, and so when they ate meat, it wasn't that often, but they would eat meat because they decided that they were going to give up one of their animals, which is almost like taking money out of your savings account. And so they would eat all of it. And I am very familiar with how the textures are pretty different. So these kind of supplements are great because we can get the benefits of the organs without having to learn to cook them in ways that taste good and then eat them. And it also hopefully means that more of the animal is being used and, everything. So the one that we focus on the most is liver, and that's because of the nutritional content of liver. It's very supportive of everyone in general, but it has a lot of B vitamins. It has a little bit of, well, a lot. The amount that you get is very small, so it still counts as kind of like a supplemental amount. But it has, I'm just Googling so that I can read to you because it's early in the morning. It has vitamin A, vitamin B12, iron, copper, zinc, selenium. It has some folate. It has a good amount of choline, which is one of the things that we really like about it. It has some vitamin K. And it has all of these things in a form that, in theory, our bodies are best able to understand, break down, and metabolize and use. So while I still recommend people take a prenatal multivitamin, and most of those things you will find in a prenatal multi, I do like having the beef liver as kind of like a backup in many ways for that, because you are more likely to be able to digest and absorb these nutrients in this whole food package that it comes in, even though it has been like freeze dried and put in a capsule. So the liver, if someone only wanted to take liver, that would be fine. Kidney and heart are two of the other organs that are solid organs. So in Chinese medicine, we talk about the organs being either solid or hollow. I don't know that people really talk about that in nutrition or Western medicine, but it is valuable in thinking about what organs there are. The hollow ones are like intestine, stomach, things like that. You will find that they are not as frequently eaten today, right? Like they are eaten in the developing world. They are used in some traditional cooking, especially of like sort of non-English based ethnicities. But the solid ones like heart and kidney are much more meaty. And so they do tend to be in French recipes and British recipes and, Caribbean recipes and all kinds of things. And I think that kidney, liver, and heart can taste pretty good. Like you can definitely get from a high-end butcher, you can often get a blend of like hamburger meat that has kidney, liver, and heart blended in with the meat. And it will taste a little bit more strongly meaty, like gamey, almost as if you're eating venison or ostrich or bison or something as opposed to cow, but it won't taste weird. So that's one way that people can get these things. Kidney and heart have slightly other, I'll just Google them, ingredients, but they're going to also have, they're also going to have like primarily the same nutritional value that the liver has. Like heart has iron, B12, choline, selenium, zinc, B6, riboflavin, and niacin. So it has less choline than the iron does. It has like it doesn't have the vitamin A and the vitamin K, which are the fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. But it does have a little bit more of some of the other B vitamins like B6, riboflavin, and niacin are also B vitamins. It's weird in the B vitamin world that we talk about some of the some of the B vitamins by their number and some of them by their name. It's I don't know why they need numbers and names, and I don't know why it's not standard to talk about them with just one method or the other. So looking at kidney, it's really the same ingredients again, like, or the same nutrients again, B12, iron, selenium, but there is some vitamin A, zinc, copper, phosphorus, and potassium. So in kidney, there's going to be a little bit more mineral content. And that's probably because kidneys are, they have a very different function than heart tissue, right? Like heart, liver, and kidney have processing functions that include sort of like what we think of as detox, like taking things apart so that parts of them can be excreted out of our body. Whereas the heart is mostly just a muscle that just like pumps. So there is no downside, in my opinion, to getting a product that has kidney and heart as well as liver. But there's also not a huge downside to just doing a product that's liver, because it has kind of the most highest quantity of these ingredients. So now adding uterus and ovary and fallopian tube, this gets a little bit into the world of it's not bioidenticals, it's glandulars is like the terminology. Which is sort of like, mostly you see this, or in the, I would say the biggest place where you see this is related to thyroid function. And I don't know that this is true, but this is how I always think of this. Like, obviously, if you eat snout to tail, you do eat the organs of the animals as well. And so you do eat the ovaries and the fallopian tubes or the testes or anything else. But from our perspective, I think that the reason these are in here is it kind of originates in sort of how hypothyroid was originally treated. When people in earlier Western medicine, like it's at least early 1900s, it's probably later 1800s, started treating thyroid conditions. They didn't just have a medication to treat them with. So what they did is they took primarily pork thyroids, and they, in the pharmacies, they would dry them and smush them up and make them into a medicine. And so then instead of the person's own thyroid making its own thyroid hormone, they would take a compounded medication that was made up of an animal's thyroid that contained some of its thyroid hormone. And pig and human are very close together in many ways, so we could utilize that hormone. And then there was a really long, like strong push to try to create a better medication for managing thyroid by the pharmaceutical companies, or whatever their like, earlier iterations were, because the amount of thyroid hormone you received from eating the thyroid gland of the pig, or taking it in a dried way, was irregular, because every pig is different and every method of compounding and drying might be different, and the amount you might be getting is different, and there are a lot of more variables. And one of the things that is a big benefit of the drugs that we get from like the pharmaceutical industry is that they should be standardized, so that every dose should deliver the same amount of what we're trying to get from them. So then in the world of thyroid, we ended up in this place where they developed Synthroid, and then they shunned the previous methods. And there, even to this day, is kind of a push-pull in the world of thyroid. It's gotten much better since I've been working in this field. But in like even just like 10 or 15 years ago, like you still heard doctors saying that anything other than Synthroid or levothyroxine was like bad, because it wasn't going to have a standardized amount of medication. And actually, that's not true. There are bioidentical thyroid medications that are derived from animal products. and they are standardized because, no surprise, science has evolved since the way back when. So those are no longer the problems. They do deliver more hormones for thyroid. Levothyroxine or Synthroid only delivers T4. It doesn't deliver T3, and some people need both T3 and T4. And so some of the there are synthetics and bioidenticals for both, but some people will take a product that is originating in a porcine thyroid that delivers T3 and T4. I actually take one that's called Armor Thyroid. So this inclusion of uterus and ovary is really like picking up from that kind of area. The second place where you will see glandulars used a lot, I think, is in products that are supposed to support your adrenal function, where they have ground up like the adrenal glands of an animal. And then maybe the third place would be some digestive stuff, like sometimes they'll use pancreas to like try to give people more of the enzymes that your pancreas shoots out. So all of that being said, this is intended to be supportive of uterine function and ovarian function by providing you with well-functioning young uterus and ovary from a cow. I don't know how effective it is. I don't think it's dangerous because you can eat the uterus and the ovary, in like a stew or a sauce or, by itself. I'm not worried about it being dangerous. But they are a little bit different. Well, ovary and uterus are a little bit different. Uterus is not really a engine for making hormones. The uterus is primarily a place where there are lots and lots and lots of receptors for hormones. So hormones you can think of as keys and receptors are locks. So let's take estrogen as the example. Your body makes estrogen and it floats around in your blood and moves and navigates through your body. By being there, it's not doing anything, even though we measure it and we use that measurement in many ways to like make a lot of assumptions or confirmations about what's happening in the body. But it just being there means it's just there. It's just available. It has potential. That's good. It has to meet a receptor. It has to be a key that enters a lock in order to make something happen. And what actually happens most of the time is that you have to get enough keys entering enough locks for something to happen, or for the right thing to happen, or for the thing that we need to happen in like the most efficient and robust way. So that's why counting how much estrogen there is tells us a lot, even though it's not showing us that a function is happening, but it tells us that there are sufficient estrogen keys that all of the estrogen receptors should be able to meet a key and make that connection, which will then make other stuff happen. And then eventually any key that's in a lock will get released after a period of time. And then the body should be tagging it as used, and it should be getting processed out of the body. And there should be new keys, new estrogen to go back into that lock and start the process all over again. So eating uterus, I didn't invent this product, so I haven't done a ton of like market research, or not market research, I'm like research on this, but in my head, the uterus, it's fine. It's like meat. It'll have nutritional ingredients just like the kidney and the heart. Like it'll have vitamins and minerals and things in it, but from a glandular perspective, it's not like, in my opinion, providing a huge benefit to you because it's mostly receptors and those are not things that you can like absorb. The ovary is different because ovaries do make hormones. They primarily, like quantity, make estrogen, but they make AMH, they make progesterone. So the ovary is something that I do think is pretty supportive, especially if your hormone levels are low. So I think this is a totally great product. I don't think it's like I don't think taking ovary is usually a miracle for people, but it's definitely supportive. I don't know if that like answers your questions. Um, Laura,
It
hopefully
does.
it does.
Sorry, I was trying to come off it. It does, and because the thing is, though, I'll be honest, I have PCOS and hypothyroidism. So the majority of the issues I've been facing is like, so my period would be like, it could be up to 2 months,
Yeah.
and then it happens. So I have been doing, because before I wasn't very consistent with the Moxa and the castor oil packets, but I'm being more consistent with it. And I'm noticing that when I'm more consistent with it, between that and I do the fertility teas, wisdom of the womb, fertile mama tea,
Mhm.
when I do that, at least 1 cup a day, I'm finding that, oh my gosh, I actually have a 28-day cycle. My period is not that bad. You know, I don't have that much of a mood shifts. I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. My period only lasts like 3 days. What? It's no longer like a week.
The bleeding itself is shorter.
Yes.
Interesting.
It,
Well,
it did scare me a little bit, but then again, I had gone from being so out of whack and I actually had to look it up and like, no, it's normal to only bleed for like 2 to 5 days. I was like, okay, so it's not normal to go like 4 to 7 days. Got it.
is I think 5 to 7 is like most usefully normal, but there's nothing automatically wrong with 3 to 4 days. And even 1 to 2 days, while it is short, um, doesn't necessarily, it can, but it doesn't necessarily connect to how many how thick the lining is. Like if the girl is doing IVF or IUI or something where we're getting her lining measured, it's interesting how often the number of days that she bleeds and the quantity of blood that she sees in her period doesn't, like, she's very worried about it, meaning that her lining is thin, and then it doesn't actually equate to that. And the lining is as thick as it needs to be. I would say that the experience of the period matters in addition to the number of days. So like when you're saying you don't have as much PMS, you're not as uncomfortable while you're bleeding, like those are good signs that make the change in the length of your cycle positive. And the frequency of your cycle starting to increase and be more regular is also really great. I wish that I could say that every woman with PCOS could achieve regular ovulation and periods on her own. Um, it is not always something that I think is possible for every person. It really depends upon what else is going on in their body and what the characteristics of your specific PCOS is, because PCOS can be quite different from person to person. But when you have hypothyroid, one of the things you can do to support your body in having more regular cycles, even with PCOS, is to make sure that your thyroid is well managed. And then because PCOS is a metabolic disorder, it's all about blood sugar and insulin, making changes to your diet and your exercise and like uh, regulating the way that your metabolism works in your body. For some people, that means taking something like metformin or even a GLP-1, or for people who maybe don't need as much as that, often the myo-inositol is very helpful in helping your body to regulate its glucose and insulin. So
I actually
some,
did have to do that.
yeah.
I had to, I, I ended up becoming 290 pounds. And between that and my high blood pressure, the doctor's like, you got to do something. And the high blood pressure medicine gave me, and this is like just like within the past month or two kind of a thing. The high blood pressure medicine was giving me a lot of weird side effects, and I didn't like it. So I opted to do the Manjaro.
Uh-huh.
And so far, I've lost like 15 pounds. And so between that and a lot of the diet changes, I'm wondering if that's causing
I
the
think the
regularity too.
Manjaro is a really big key in this. So these GLP-1s are new, obviously. They're not as new as it feels like they are because they were around and much smaller number of people were taking them for 2 or 3 years before they became kind of like a, you know, thing that everybody talks about all day, every day. And that you see mentioned in social media and everything. And then obviously before that, they were doing studies and there were groups of people that were being studied that were on them. So they're not quite as like brand new as they felt 3 years ago. But we are still in a stage where we are learning a whole lot more about them. And so the very first thing that they were approved for was for diabetes, but they are actually approved for a bunch of other things now as well, because they reduce inflammation so much in the body. And one of the things that you can do when you have PCOS is to take the Manjaro. It regulates so insulin is also a key. um, it's also a hormone. Insulin is a key, and there are receptors for insulin. And the reason why insulin and sugar, glucose, get combined with each other is that glucose comes into our bodies through our food, and then our digestive system separates the food into a whole bunch of little things, molecules. One of those molecules is glucose, and glucose is a fuel that our cells need, like all our cells need it. So it goes out of our intestines and into our bloodstream. And then what it's supposed to do, because it's just a nutrient, sugar, it's not a key, is it's supposed to meet one molecule of glucose is supposed to meet one molecule of the hormone insulin, and they are supposed to get attached to each other. It's almost like insulin is the suitcase and the glucose gets packaged inside. And then once the glucose is inside, then the insulin acts like a key and goes to a receptor. And then that function that this is allowing to happen is actually for the glucose to slide out of the insulin suitcase through the wall of the cell that has the receptor and be now inside the cell where it can be used as fuel for all the functioning of the cell. And one of the things that happens in PCOS and in other insulin resistant issues is that the glucose and the insulin can have like a hard time connecting to each other. The glucose can't like quite get into the suitcase, and then the suitcase can have a hard time getting into the receptor. And these technically the GLP-1 is not the receptor that the insulin goes into. But it is it's a thing that increases the amount of insulin that your body is making, and then it also suppresses something else called glucagon that raises your blood sugar levels. So when you are insulin resistant, and like you with PCOS, part of the reason why you reach 290 pounds is that if you have this insulin resistance and your glucose and your insulin and your receptors are not functioning efficiently, the glucose is spending more time in your bloodstream and it's not getting into the cell. So you ate, you provided nutrients to your body, and now your body still thinks it doesn't have nutrients. So the cells start sending messages that the brain gets saying that there wasn't enough glucose. We need more. And that drives us to eat more, and it drives us to eat more that has more sugar in it, which is part of the reason why we crave sugar or crave carbs, and why we will eat more, even if it's just incrementally more. And then obviously, the other reason why we gain weight is that eventually when that glucose is like sitting around in the bloodstream and not being utilized by being taken into the cells to become fuel, our bodies will store it, and they store it in fat. So the GLP-1 really changes this. And the connection between exactly why this particular insulin resistant issue results in the ovaries not being responsive to hormones, or the hormones in the pituitary not being produced, like LH, for instance, to stimulate the ovaries to grow a egg to maturity and ovulate it at a regular interval. That is it's more complicated. It's like hard to explain. And I don't even think that we have a full explanation for it, but that is basically the root of the hormone dysfunction of PCOS. The root of it is in the insulin and the glucose. So the GLP-1s are like amazing because um, they are so effective at changing the functioning at the kind of origin of where all of this starts. And so you will lose weight, which will be good for you at, it'll make you look and feel better, which is also important, but it'll be good for you because you'll have less stored glucose in your body, and your body will be less in crisis. So there's less inflammation related to having your glucose be efficiently taken up into your cells. I always talk about high blood glucose being sort of like low grade background inflammation. So I always use this example, like in the office, Amy and I share where we see patients for acupuncture. We've been in this office since 2011. Like we've been there forever. We're old. Um, and when you walk in and you flick on the light, that light switch has always been warm. Like since the day we moved into the office, it has been warm. Now we don't own the building. We didn't do the like build out on the space. So we didn't like hire the electrician to put in whatever. We don't really have control over that, and nothing has happened. And 2011 is like a really long time ago. What is it, like 15 years ago, kind of? So obviously there isn't a fire going on in the walls of the building. The building hasn't burned down, the office hasn't burned down, anything like that. But I still think the hot switch plate does suggest that there's something in the wiring that's not quite right, and it is causing some heat that will, if there is another problem, make it a bigger problem. And that's kind of how I think of high blood sugar as a contributor to inflammation, right? If it's the only thing that you have going on, it's still there. But maybe it's not that big of a deal in your day-to-day life currently until something else comes and complicates matters, and then it makes it much, much worse. Because it has been there kind of like waiting the whole time for something to come up. And now instead of just a hot switch plate, you're going to have a fire. So when the higher blood sugar is related to a bigger complex of functions that are challenged, as they are in PCOS, you don't really have just the hot switch plate. You have a fire going on in your body. And that's part of how you gained the weight that you did. And it's definitely a big part of how your cycles have been irregular. So I think everything you're doing is great for your fertility. And I think we are going to see more and more GLP-1s used. The reproductive immunologists are like a lot more cutting edge kind of than most doctors that you might see, OBs, GYNs, even reproductive endocrinologists. And because they live in that kind of cutting edge space, and they use medications off label for tons of different things, and they prescribe medications to women in pregnancy all the time, they will be much more comfortable with something before other people are. And they're starting to be comfortable with GLP-1s in pregnancy. The vast majority of people at this point in time would say that you can take the GLP-1 until you start a retrieval cycle. That we wouldn't want you taking it while you are developing eggs. But that's not all of the reproductive endocrinologists and immunologists. Some of them will say that actually you are totally fine taking it through retrieval and that you only need to stop it pre-transfer. And someday I will not be surprised at all if they say actually you can keep taking it in pregnancy. But we're just in a stage where we're like gathering information about it. So when people take GLP-1s, the standard kind of like traditional, even though it's only a few years of tradition, way that you take them is at like a higher dose weekly. But there are also ways that you can take them at a lower dose. And then once you achieve a certain result, so the most obvious results are that your blood sugar goes down, your hemoglobin A1C goes down, your other markers like your leptin and your insulin regulate. In a case with PCOS, your menstrual cycle regulates, those types of things. But obviously like weight loss and other things are part of it too. Then you might step down to a less frequent dose and you might not take it every week, or you might start taking like a micro dose. There are some people who are taking it who don't yet have like the full hemoglobin A1C level that would like indicate it, or they're pre-diabetic but they're in the lower range, but they have something like I was just talking to or emailing with a girl the other day. She's had a consistently high C-reactive protein, CRP, test result in an alarming way. Well, alarming is a strong word, but in a way that makes us uncomfortable, right? Ever since we met her. It's been in like the 40s and the 20s, and a normal healthy CRP is under 1. So it's high. CRP is a non-specific blood test result that indicates inflammation in the body. When it was first added to sort of the list of tests that you get tested at your annual physical, it was thought that it was more specific and that it was more specifically related to heart disease. So you will sometimes see people talk about it as an indicator of like cardiac disease, heart disease, risk factors for heart failure and heart attacks and all kinds of things. It is still associated with heart function, heart disease, because inflammation is bad for the heart, but it's actually less specific than that. And it's much more of just an indicator that there is inflammation in the body. And it can be anywhere. It doesn't have to be specifically in any structures that are directly related to heart function and heart disease. So she started taking GLP-1, and in 2 months, her CRP has come down by 50%, which it hasn't done before. So,
Wow.
yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, cardiologists think that GLP-1s are preventative of heart disease. I think I've read that they are thinking that they're beneficial for kidney function, which would make sense because there's kidney, heart are connected, and kidney and diabetes are connected. They're thinking that they're good for all kinds of things. So it's pretty great. I'm really glad that you're taking it. Does that answer all of your questions? I've just been rambling.
It does. And I really appreciate it because nobody's really explained, because I didn't quite understand what insulin resistance was. So it, like, people always just give me like a generalization. So no, I appreciate this because you really went in there and explained it to where it's understandable
Yeah.
what it is. So I do
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Good. Yeah, it's really like insulin resistance it's confusing because it's actually the bad part of insulin resistance is about glucose, but you're talking about insulin. So how do you get from insulin to glucose? And it is really that like suitcase kind of, it's a carrier molecule. And there are lots and lots of carrier molecules. Not all of them are hormones. Like with thyroid function, there are some proteins that are carrier proteins that help. They don't actually help the thyroid hormone go into cells, but they help the thyroid hormone get transported all over the body so that it's available for cells that are further away from the thyroid. So that's a functionality that like a medical person just like gets because it's just part of how we talk about things in the body, but it never really gets talked about when you're just talking about um it's like I think insulin resistance is a shorthand way of kind of saying like blood sugar problems that aren't diabetes, right? Which is it's helpful, but it doesn't really explain what is going on. Yeah. So yeah. But I think it's really good for you. And I think these GLP-1s, so the Manjaro has two functions. It blocks the GLP-1s in two different ways compared to Ozempic, which doesn't make Ozempic bad. It's just they're just different.
Different.
Yeah, so Ozempic is a GLP-1 only agonist, and a Mounjaro is a dual agonist that targets GIP and GLP-1. So like Mounjaro is seen to be stronger, more effective, but let's see. Mounjaro has been Oh no, Ozempic has been approved for reducing cardiovascular risk, but Mounjaro has been approved for something else too that's not about blood sugar and weight loss. But this is all kind of like uh happening almost in real time. Like yeah, so it's good. Really good. Any other questions or thoughts? It's okay if you don't have them. Um, Sarah, if you have any questions, feel free to come on and ask them. Um, so the Fertile Mama tea, which lots of people take, the Wisdom of the Womb, um, it has red raspberry leaf, nettle leaf, red clover, peppermint, lemon balm, lady's mantle, black cohosh, dongui, passion flower, ginger, dried pomegranate, and goji berries. It is a kind of combination of Western and Chinese herbs. So the goji, the ginger, the dongui, which is written in Chinese in pinyin, the peppermint, these are all herbs that we use in Chinese medicine. The red raspberry leaf, the nettle, the clover, the lemon balm, the cohosh, these are more things that are used in Western herbs. Um, the red raspberry leaf is one of my favorites in this combination. It is something that lots of people will recommend that women take throughout pregnancy. We generally have people stop it once you get pregnant, and then you can start it again closer to delivery, because red raspberry leaf tea is like a uterine tonic, and it promotes like uterine activity. And so just out of like an abundance of caution, not because it's going to cause a miscarriage, we just like let the uterus handle its own business, especially in the first trimester, and don't try to like um, make it more active. But this is a pretty good way of like, because you will drink 1 cup of this per day, or maybe you'll drink 2 cups of it some days, and you won't necessarily drink a cup of it every single day. I do think this is a good sort of like supplement to your diet as opposed to like a supplement that you're taking. I do list it and include it as one of the supplements that you're taking, but it is closer to food than some of them. So like the the organ meats that we talked about that are in a capsule,
Mhm.
those are also closer to food. So they fall into kind of like a similar category when I'm categorizing the types of supplements that people are taking. And I think that this is good. There will be some people who will not have as good of a benefit from this as others because there's variation for all of us. So you shouldn't automatically go into anything, any supplement, any tea, assuming that it's only positive. So if you were to experience anything weird or uncomfortable, like you should consider the tea as one of the things that you have started recently that could be, part of the reason why you're experiencing what you're experiencing. Same thing with good results. Like if you are experiencing that your cycle is more regular and that you're ovulating more and you're seeing more cervical mucus and things like that, like this could well be part of the picture. I would say it's not as strong as the GLP-1, but yeah, I like these teas and people seem to be drinking a lot of them. I just don't
Yeah.
recommend that you go like overboard and try to drink like 6 cups of tea a day. Like,
No,
like,
no, like it
like,
even says like twice a day, have a cup twice a day.
yeah.
But
And a
no,
cup, and it doesn't have to be steeped to like the darkest possible tea. Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, no, I only do like maybe 10 minutes.
Hmm.
Just keep it for like 10 minutes because I think it says like 10 to 15 on the back of the package. But
Yep. It's
that
perfect.
one and then their moon tea because it was a bundle that came with the castor oil and everything. Um, so like it was funny because it kind of like coincided with a lot of the stuff in Amy's recommendations of what to do and whatnot.
So
So I was like, perfect.
the castor oil, I'm looking up the ingredients in the fertile moon tea. Let's see. It's so funny. When you click on ingredients, it takes you to comments and then you have to scroll back up.
Yeah.
This website's better than the other one because ingredients is listed at the top of every page with and each product has a product page, which I like. So this is also kind of a combination of Western and um, Western and Chinese herbs. It trends more towards Western because that's what this company is. They've only incorporated a few Chinese herbs. There's a lot of things that are the same in here. It has a few things like mugwort, milk thistle, skullcap, um, and chase tree berries that are different than what are in the first tea. So the chase tree berries um, are also called Vitex. That's the same thing. And that can be supportive of your follicle's ability to make progesterone. So we are cautious about prescribing chase tree or Vitex as a supplement. It doesn't mean we don't do it, but we don't automatically do it. It's not like, oh, this is great for everyone, because sometimes it can screw up cycles. But like I have a girl that I just sent a follow-up email to yesterday who lives in Canada, I think. And there are fewer, I mean, not a lot, but there are some differences between what's available over the counter in Canada and what's available over the counter in the US. And progesterone is one of those things that they can't get in Canada. Um, the way that we can get a topical cream for progesterone here. And she's also waiting for an IVF cycle to come up because in Canada they have sort of like two different ways of accessing fertility medicine. One is through their universal health care, and that means that they have a limited number of cycles available to them, but they are free. But they have to do them kind of like when their number comes up, kind of they have to wait between them because there's not enough cycles to go around. The other way that they can do IVF is they can do it the way that we do here, where you pay for it. And so when you grow up in a universal healthcare system, you have more of an expectation that you don't have to pay for medical care, and you are more used to going through the universal healthcare system. And then also you should take advantage of anything that's free. So she's also like kind of waiting for the next steps with her doctor. And she has been taking Vitex, and often I will not just be cautious about having people take it, but I will sometimes tell people that I want them to stop it and like, let's see how their body makes progesterone and how their body ovulates and everything. But for her, I was like, let's keep taking it. Like, I just want to have her track her cycles on Mira. So that's the same thing with this tea. Now she's taking a supplement, she's taking like pills, she's taking a much higher quantity. This is also probably you're only taking this in a certain point in your cycle because you're drinking different teas at different times. So this is a much lower amount of it that you're getting, unlike what she's getting. But it's like the same thing, just like I said with the other tea. These are some of the reasons why not everything is equally good for everyone. And no matter what it is that you start taking, you should just pay attention to like how your body responds to it. And it's one of the reasons why tracking with Mira can be so helpful, because we can see how things change, and we can have a record of it, the months before you started something and the months after, etc. She's also trying to ration her Mira use because it's expensive, which I totally get. So I suggested to her that she pee into a cup um, and do just a like cheap LH stick that the Premom app can read, which is one of those ones with the two lines, and you're looking for the line to get darker. And that one like you can read it yourself, but people get really anxious about whether they're reading it correctly. And there is this app called Premom where you take a picture of it and then Premom will read it for you. And then it also maintains a record, like a photographic record, which is better than trying to hold on to the sticks that have pee on them. Because after a certain period of time, 20 minutes or an hour, what you see on them is no longer exactly what was the result of the test either. So there's no point to keep them, but having the pictures in the Premom app works. So I suggested pee into a cup, do the cheap test, and get Premom to tell you the results, and then only follow it up with a Mira stick if it says that you are surging. So then she can do only like one LH stick for Mira, because what I really want from her is to see that she ovulates and that she has a progesterone rise that confirms ovulation, and then what happens with her progesterone. So she can spend more of her money doing more of the progesterone stick tests for Mira in the second half of her cycle and spend less on the first half, because everything
Yeah,
gets expensive.
it does. And they came out with a new one because I use the mirror too, and I really like it. The new one, it's like a 4-in-1 wand. So it also tests the AMH too.
Oh, it tests the AMH.
It's like $10 more,
Of course it
but
is.
if it's like $100 like every other month kind of a thing. So it's not too bad. But like I got a box of those to try them, and I was like, oh man,
Is
these
it
are really nice.
AMH or FSH? It's AMH.
I believe it's AMH.
So interesting. I'm looking on their website right now. LH, estrogen, progesterone, FSH. Ugh, a menopause kit. Oh
Oh
yeah,
no, it
here
is
we
FSH.
go.
I'm
Yep.
sorry.
No, but Mira Panorama is a finger prick test, and it will test for AMH. So they do have a blood test now. Oh, and they've
Maybe that's
labeled
why.
all of their stuff as Black Friday. So they're getting ready for putting stuff on sale if it's not on sale already. It is the season. They make it's funny, they make a bunch of products, and their prenatal multi, I wouldn't say it's like amazing, but the one thing that I really like about it is that it actually has a very low amount of vitamin B6 compared to other prenatal multis. And there are a handful of women who have reaction to high amounts of vitamin B6 where they get what's called peripheral neuropathy. So their hands and their feet will get numb, which is alarming, right? And it is wicked hard to find a prenatal multi that has a super low amount of B6 because for B vitamins are water soluble vitamins, so you can pee out the extra. And so the supplement industry has embraced the B vitamins at like sometimes ridiculously high doses. So you'll see giant doses of B12, of B6, of biotin. Those are like the three main ones where you'll just see like a supplement will tell you that it's giving you like 1,000% of the RDA of whatever it is. And so before we found this prenatal that has this lower amount of B6, we were having to like get girls who have this problem to sort of like create create a prenatal by taking a bunch of other supplements that like provide the nutrients that are in it with so that we could avoid the B6. So I do like that they have this prenatal, but I didn't realize
Oh,
they had a
wow.
blood test for AMH. Yeah. So they don't have a urine test for AMH, but they do have a blood test for it. And they for the FSH, they now sell individual FSH sticks. Um, they sell like a kit that tracks all four. Um,
Yeah, it's the Ultra Four
yeah,
wand.
yep, the
That's
Ultra
the one that
4
I've
kit.
tried. Yeah.
Yep. And so that like the only that occasionally is valuable to us. I have to say, every once in a while we have a girl where seeing her FSH throughout her follicular phase like tells us something about what's going on in her body. But most of the time, I don't really feel like you need to track your FSH throughout your follicular phase. The day that we are looking to get a baseline FSH test is really like day 2 or day 3. So the fact that they have now started to sell individual FSH wands, they call them Mira Ovum wands, means that if you wanted to do a baseline FSH at home, you could buy a package of those and you could do that stick on day 2 or day 3 and then not start the ones that do the estrogen and the LH until later on in your cycle, like day 9 or 11 or 15 or whenever it is, depending on the length of your cycle that you start testing. And that could potentially also be a way to like save money. And then also for some people, it's very anxiety provoking to see their FSH get higher as their follicular phase goes on. That's normal and it's what's supposed to happen because there will be more follicle stimulating hormone as you're getting closer to ovulation because it's there to stimulate your follicle to grow so that you can ovulate. But since we all know that high FSH is bad, like that's an indicator of progressing towards menopause or being likely to have a lesser response on an IVF retrieval cycle or any number of like really negative things, just seeing a high number can sometimes be stressful. Even if it's at the right time and it doesn't actually mean anything bad, it can still be really stressful for people. So I think like doing it with it can tell us something, but if it feels stressful, you can just pick up a package of those ovum wands and test it like once a month.
Okay.
Well, it's nice
Yes,
talking to you, Laura.
I do appreciate it. I did see what time it is, and then you say you had another one to go to, but I do appreciate it. Thank you so
Oh
much.
yeah, I love these. Yeah, today I have to go and prep for this food Q&A, which is going to be the opposite of this quiet chat. It's going to be pandemonium,
Mhm.
but that's okay.
Well, thank you again. You have a good
You're
rest of your day.
welcome. You have a good rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. See you soon.